The first fight of PFL Africa is between these two women, and there's no chance that I'm betting on low-level African women's MMA, so I haven't taped it. So let's talk about Babli versus Ghanese. Ghanese is a short-notice replacement in this match, and Babli is a minus 1,000 favorite, which is interesting because I think Ghanese is actually better than Medkuri, who's the guy that pulled out of the fight. Babli is probably better all around, I would say. He's going to be a better grappler, better striking technique, more volume. Ghanese may have the power edge, we'll see. And Babli obviously has just faced a way higher level of competition. But Ghanese, he has shown decent takedown defense. He is big, he's athletic, he mixes in leg kicks, he has a clean jab, and he can go for 3 rounds. So he's actually a decent fighter. I think Babli will try and get takedowns, but he might not be able to land them, and it could end up being a lot of cage grinding here. And Ghanese has shown ability to get in underhooks and stop takedown attempts in the past, albeit against low-level opposition. He has shown like he knows what to do. So if it does turn into a stand-up fight, it will probably look a lot closer than odds suggest, even if Babli does have the striking edge. So yeah, I would say do not parlay Babli at minus 1,000. And I will reveal actually that I do have a small bet on Ghanese. Next up is Hokonya versus Franz Malambo. Malambo is massive favorite, minus 800. I'm not really sure what to say about Hokonya. He doesn't seem to have any real weaknesses, but equally has no real strengths. He'll mix in takedowns when he can. Overall, he just seems like a regional journeyman who won't ever go on to anything special. Mostly has decision wins, although he does have one KO to his name. Malambo is taking this fight on short notice after a 1.5 year layoff. He did get KO'd in his last fight, but I do think he will win fairly easily here. He will land probably a lot more on the feet, posing problems that Akonya hasn't seen before. He will defend any takedown attempts, most likely, and if he does get taken down, he's shown that he can get back up quickly. He just has a lot more experience and has fought way better guys than Akonya has. Like, he has wins over Jonas Magard, Rashid has, like, decent regional guys. And he just seems like a level or two above Akonya. Odds are shit, but he should win. Next up is Abdullah Kane versus Joffrey Horton. Kane is a massive guy and in good shape too. He seems composed on the feet. He throws combos, throws leg kicks, threw a spinning elbow with good technique in his last fight. And he has grappling ability too. He took his opponent down with a trip, which was impressive, and then choked him out. Yeah, I'm quite impressed with him, to be honest, especially when comparing him to some of the other shitty heavyweights who are fighting on this card. Joffrey is coming in on short notice. He is not very good. He seems to want to grapple mostly, but struggles to get takedowns, often gets reversed in the clinch, struggles to get back up once he gets taken down. Just seems like a bit of a pussy overall. I think Kane is going to fuck him up. Round one could be a sub or a KO. Kane is minus 450 favorite, but yeah, I think he's definitely going to win this fight. And he is my lock of the card. Next up is Shitamba versus Karim Henien. Shatamba is another short notice replacement, and I can't find videos of his two most recent fights, so I can't really pick a winner here. But I can tell you why Henien is a bit shit and why you shouldn't really parlay him at minus 350. He's a grappler. He's landed several takedowns in his last fight, mostly double legs, but a couple throws as well. But they weren't set up with strikes or anything. They were just mostly seemed like his opponent had no takedown defense at all. And he gassed out bad in that fight and lost the third round, despite winning a decision. His stand-up, unrefined, could even go as far as to call it sloppy. Keeps his hands low for no apparent reason, besides the fact that he just seems tired. And when taping the matchup against his original opponent, I predicted him to lose by KO. But now that his opponent's changed to Shishamba, I have no clue really what's going to happen. But all I will say is don't confidently be parlaying this guy. Next up is Jashel Awa versus Justin Clark. Two kind of shit guys. Jashel is plus 110, Clark minus 140 or thereabouts. Not much tape to go on here. Clark's last fight, he swung wildly but didn't land much. He's hittable and got pressured backwards a couple times, but I suppose he never got hit cleanly or hurt. Then about 2 minutes into the fight, he clinched his opponent up against the fence, and his opponent verbally retired for some reason. I couldn't figure out why, beyond him just being winded. It was just an awful fight all around. And Clark's only other fight before that, he knocked out a can in 30 seconds, which I couldn't find the video of. The only positive I can really say about him is that he trains at the same gym as Duplessis and Mark Holm. Jachel's last fight was in fucking Power Slap, which says it all really, and he lost that by KO. Couldn't find his most recent MMA fight, which Tapology says he won by low kicks in round one. But I did manage to watch the one before that, which was February last year, which he won by split decision. And bear in mind that it was his opponent's first and only ever fight, according to Tapology. Jashel was extremely low energy, plodding around and often just standing still. Seemed like he just wanted to go home. He threw 1-2s, but missed most of them, again, because he was just literally standing still most of the time. It was as if he threw them to keep the other guy away, rather than actually wanting to land them. In fact, during round 3, the ref stepped in and told both guys to be more active, because they were just doing nothing. Jashel did land a few leg kicks throughout the fight, which is probably the only positive I can say about him. He landed a takedown at the very end of round 2 and another at the very end of round 3, but didn't really do anything with them, and his opponent, he didn't really put up much resistance. I'm going to pick Clark to win, just due to more willingness to be in the fight, really. But there's not really enough tape to be confident about it. I'm mostly picking him just because he trains at a legit gym with decent guys, and because Jashel is perhaps the most unmotivated looking fighter I've ever seen. There is a chance that Clark destroys him, whereas if Jashel wins, it will probably be another split decision following a really crappy fight. So yeah, I'm gonna pick Clark to win rather unconfidently. Next fight is Shannon Van Tonda versus Bull Gorogo. Bull hasn't fought in 3 years. He's still young though, 23 years old only. His last fight was a decision against a guy who had a 2-4 record. I couldn't find a video of it though. I did watch his pro debut. He seemed athletic, decent takedown defense, although he did get his back taken once. Eventually, he got ground and pound finish. But I mean, it was 4 years ago. He was 19, and his opponent was kind of shit. So you can't really draw any conclusions from that. Van Tonda is a jiu-jitsu guy, 30 years old. His last fight was a decision win, which he probably should have lost. He got outstruck, fought with his hands low because he got tired after the first round. He took his opponent's back twice, but not for very long. Bit of a robbery, to be honest. Fight before that, his opponent with a 3-4 record was just walking him down and beating him up before Van Tonda eventually got a takedown and a sub in round two. His last official loss was last year, where he again got tired and basically gave up in round two and got finished. I don't really recommend anyone put money on this guy. I think he's like a minus 150 favorite in this matchup. Bull is plus 110 or thereabouts. Yeah, Van Tonda is sub or bust. He doesn't have cardio, doesn't have that dog in him, hasn't fought anyone good. But equally, we have no idea how good Bull is after 3 years away. Having said that, I am picking Bull to win, mainly as a pure fade of Van Tonda. There is a little video clip on PFL's Twitter with Bull talking about how hard he's been training. So hopefully he's made some good progress in the last few years and comes out looking good. But yeah, mainly picking him to win just because Van Tonda does not look like a guy you want to put your money on ever. Up next is Nana versus Grogu. Before I get into it, if you feel like you've got any useful information from this video, then press the like button. And I am planning to regularly upload each week from now on, so subscribe if you want to. Anyway, let's talk about the fight. Nana trains out of Manchester top team. He's a minus 450 favorite in this fight. Grogu plus 300. Nana has a Sambo background. He's a decent fighter. He did lose in his debut to Mario Pinto a few years ago, but there's no shame in that. Obviously, Pinto is doing well in the UFC right now. And Nana has won all his fights by KO since then, albeit against some questionable opposition. I watched his last fight. He's composed, doesn't overextend himself or throw wildly, throws decent leg kicks, straight shots down the middle, got a couple takedowns too. He was a huge favorite though, so we haven't really seen him tested in a competitive matchup yet. He's mostly fought cans. Grogu is most famous, or infamous, I should say, for being knocked out with a head kick in 10 seconds last year. He fought 2 complete cans after that, which I didn't watch because they were in random promotions, just against complete nobodies. His last fight was back in the PFL, albeit against a guy with a 5-7 record, and that was an incredibly boring decision win. Grogu, he seemed tired after the first 1.5 rounds. He got held against the cage for minutes at a time, and I mean, his physique is just atrocious. Saggy tits, flabby belly. What I will say though is that when he does throw, he throws 2 or 3 at a time. He does mix in low kicks, and even though he's a fat fuck, he does have decent hand speed and kick speed, surprisingly. And I think he'll actually be faster than Nana, which makes it interesting. I think in this fight, Nana, he will take over as the fight progresses, and he'll either get a KO win or get a decision by staying opposed and just landing more while Grogu gets tired. Nana, he could control Grogu against the fence. He could get takedowns of his own. He just has more paths to victory and just seems like a better fighter. What I will say is that Grogu as a plus 300 underdog may potentially be worth a bet. There is a world where he lands combos early due to being faster and potentially could get KO or potentially manages to squeak out a decision if he manages to just land more in the first 2 rounds. So yeah, picking Nana to win. More skilled, better all around. But, minus 450, do you want to parlay him? I would be nervous about doing that. Next fight is Nkosi Ndebele versus Mahmoud Atef. Nkosi's massive favorite, minus 800. Atef's wins are against absolute nobodies, so it's hard to put any stock in them, really. Like, one of them last year was against a random 18-year-old making his pro debut. His fight before that, he lost against Hadebe, where he got taken out effortlessly and just couldn't get up at all. On the feet, he was just throwing winged punches and flailing kicks that didn't connect. I don't really have anything positive to say about him. Yes, he has knockouts, but against absolute nobodies. So yeah, and Ndebele, on the other hand, is a legit fighter. His last fight against Hwende, he got outstruck and outgrappled, but it was competitive, and he did hold his own, and it was 5 rounds, and Hwende is actually a good fighter. Before that, Nkosi fought a trilogy against Jose Shorty Torres. He won the second and third fights. He's a big guy for the division as well, 5'10", big reach, will have a size advantage over Atef here. He should win. He throws clean strikes, good striking defense, going to be a better grappler, so could get takedowns. Yeah, picking Nkosi to win here. Corey Anderson versus Goltsov to kick off the main card. Goltsov is around minus 200 favorite. Corey around plus 150, depending on the book. Tough one to call, actually, because Goltsov, he can be taken down. He was taken down by Popov, but secured a triangle choke in his last fight. Taken down and controlled for the whole of round one against Vassell, but then he went on to win the next 2 rounds on the ground. Corey will be the smaller man, moving up to heavyweight for this fight. On the feet, Goltsov probably has the edge all around, better technique, volume, power. But Corey can probably keep it competitive on the feet. Like, he has clean technique, throws 1-2s, despite not having any real power or danger behind his strikes. He's mostly using it as a cover to get in close, clinch, takedown. I don't have the best read here, to be honest. My prediction is that Goltsov wins. He defends all the grappling and tees off on Corey. Does more damage as the bigger guy with better striking. But I wouldn't be surprised if Corey cage grinds, gets takedowns. So yeah, I'm picking Goltsov to win. Not hugely confident. Next up is Zainikov versus Izumi. Zainikov, although he doesn't pose much threat in the stand-up, he at least has clean technique. He's composed, good distance management, defensively sound. He uses trips in his takedowns, which is nice. He doesn't try and brute force it. Although he doesn't seem very heavy on top. His opponents often do get up, and he struggles to hold them down. And his ground amount isn't particularly dangerous either. He's definitely not on the level of some of the elite Dagestanis. Izumi is 36 years old. I couldn't find any of his recent fight videos, so I haven't really done any tape on him. Based on the information I can find, he is a wrestler. Like, he's competed in wrestling and won medals. He beat Spike Carlisle a few months ago in his most recent fight. He won a split decision against a 43-year-old in November 2023. You can look at that as a positive or a negative. He lost by round 3 KO in his fight after that a year ago. Without tape to go on, I can only make assumptions, really, which is that although Izumi is a wrestler, he probably won't be used to the trips that Zainikov can get him down with. I'm also going to assume that Zainikov will be a better striker, just purely having more experience, better training partners, and just striking for a lot more years, as Izumi was wrestling. Picking Zainikov to win, minus 500. But yeah, I think he'll win. AJ McKee versus Magomedov up next. Both guys kind of underwhelming to me. Magomedov, as you probably guessed just from his name, will be looking to get takedowns, but he'll struggle to get McKee down, who's going to be the better grappler here. And McKee should be able to piece him up on the feet. But I don't like that McKee is happy to be on bottom. There's definitely a world where he loses 2 rounds if Magomedov does somehow end up on top. So it's hard to want to put money on McKee as a minus 200 favorite. Like, for example, his fight against Sidney Outlaw, where he spent 15 minutes on the bottom, and yet he won the fight because he did more damage from the bottom. But, I mean, that's no way to fight, to be honest. And against a guy like Magomedov, who, if he does end up on top, he's going to be better in that position than Sidney Outlaw, and he could just grind out 2 rounds out of 3 to win a decision. While I am going to pick McKee to win just by being an all-round better fighter, do not be surprised at all if he loses just due to his own willingness to be on bottom. Co-main event, Dakota Ditcheva versus Sumiko Inaba. No surprises who I'm going to pick here. Dakota by destruction. First round, most likely, if not, definitely round 2. I will say that Inaba is a better striker than all of Dakota's past opponents, except Tyler Santos, obviously. And Inaba did land a lot of damaging clinch elbows in her last fight. But yeah, she's going to get fucking battered here by Ditcheva. And the odds reflect that, obviously, with Ditcheva being a minus 3,000 favorite. There's no point even parlaying those odds. So yeah, just enjoy the beatdown. Main event for the middleweight strap is Johnny Eblen versus Costello Van Steenis. We'll talk about Costello first. In his last fight, he got a nice head kick KO in about 50 seconds, but it was against some bum from Jungle Fights who hadn't fought in 2 years. Both fights before that, Costello tried grappling mostly. He showed some decent jiu-jitsu to improve position and eventually get sub versus Babin. But note that Babin was 40 years old and didn't put up much of a fight. Costello's fight before that, he lost against Lima. His takedown attempts weren't really set up. They were obvious and easily defendable. He did get Lima down once, but only for a few seconds, and failed every other attempt. Striking, he seemed hesitant. There's low volume, poor technique for the most part, charged forward with flailing arms, yet doesn't really seem to have any power behind it. Striking defense wasn't great, doesn't check leg kicks, got jabbed straight through his guard. He lost that fight versus Lima. In terms of his takedown defense, we have to go back 5 or 6 years to see it tested. Fabian Edwards took him down once in round 3 in their fight in 2020. He took Costello's back twice, albeit only for a few seconds. In 2019, Salter took him down several times. It's hard to draw firm conclusions from stuff that happened half a decade ago. We have to assume Costello's improved a bit since then, but by how much, we don't know. Overall, I would say he doesn't seem like someone who's going to fight for your money. Eblin, we'll talk about striking first. It's quite slow. He often throws first, but ends up being the one who gets hit just to being due to being so slow. He doesn't really throw combos either. Usually, just a single straight right. In every fight, he's looking to close the distance and begin wrestling. He can get takedowns, but he does sometimes struggle to keep top control. So a lot of the fight does end up being a cage grinding shit show. He can go 5 rounds at least, which is something we haven't yet seen from Costello, who I have a feeling might gas out due to Eblin's pressure. Uh, yeah, Eblin's going to do what he always does and try to wrestle here. Costello maybe defends the first few attempts, but as the rounds go on, I think Eblin will wear him down and get his way. Probably will be a decision win for Eblin, unless Costello gets tired and gives up and then gets finished on the ground. But yeah, overall, both these guys, very boring, pathetic fighters, to be honest. May seem quite harsh to say about someone who got a head kick KO in 60 seconds in his last fight, and about Eblin, who he has put in some good performances, albeit a few years ago at this point. But yeah, Eblin, massive favourite, around minus 500. And yeah, he probably wins, but I don't really want to put money on him. And equally, Costello, as a big dog, you might be tempted to bet him, but he's not going to fight for your money at all. So yeah. If you are interested to see all the bets I've made this week on both PFL and UFC, then go to patreon.com/bcbet and become a member.